What's up guys, JD here. I am down at a local park and I decided that I was going to do a rundown of my hammock setup for hammock camping, backpacking and canoe trips. So I'm going to find a tree, I'm going to find a spot to set up at this local park. All these trees are like almost perfectly spaced for hammocking, so I'm going to find two that I want to set up on, and then I'm going to do a time lapse so you can kind of see how I'm going to set it up. So I'm going to time myself and show you just how quickly I can set things up, and then I'm going to give you a rundown of all the gear that I've got and like why I chose it and how it all works and all that good stuff. So stay tuned and yeah, let's roll that time lapse. Alright, so that was 8.5 minutes. As you can see, I fiddled with the height quite a bit on both sides. And that's really because you want to get the foot end higher than the head end so you don't slide down over the course of the night. It keeps you a bit more flat. You lay diagonally, but it keeps you a little more flat. So I'll show you a little bit about the actual rigging, but I'm going to set up everything else. I'm going to set up the tarp and the quilts and the pillow. So like a genius, I forgot my stakes. Forgot that you kind of need them for the tarp. You don't need them for the hammock, but if you're going to sleep in them, you definitely want them. So I'm going to try and find some sticks just so I can stake out the ends of the hammock to show you kind of what it looks like when it's staked out and rigged for sleeping. Alright, so that's a bit more of what it looks like when it's staked out. So I just, the sticks worked, but I have some titanium stakes. I'll do another video on that with the tarp, just because I feel really stupid for forgetting them. But I'm going to put the quilts on and show you what it looks like with the quilts rigged up, and then give you a walkthrough of the whole thing. So we'll start from the head. Actually, you know what? I'll start with the straps. We'll just start in order. So these are Kevlar straps from Dutchwear Gear. And these are specifically the, there's two different types. There's ones that have loops on both ends, and then ones that have loops on just one end. Sorry about the wind. You can see that this one has the loop on just the one end. This is a strap. And this is basically for tying hitches. So what I'm using here, sorry, let's get that in focus. Alright, I had to change the autofocus mode. Okay, so you have these fixed loop ends here on the hammock. You can order your hammock with different types of ends for buckles or different types of rigging for ridge lines and whatnot. But this here is just, sorry, a fixed loop. And this goes right onto the marlin spike hitch that I've tied onto the Kevlar strap. And as Shug Emery would say, there's a great guy on YouTube, his name is Shug Emery, or Sean Emery is his real name, but he goes by Shug. He's a big hammocker and a clown and just goofy guy, hilarious guy. But he always says, hang on the knot, not on the toggle. You want to put the pressure on the whole knot, not on the toggle itself. You can bend your toggle or break your toggle, and then you'll come crashing down in the middle of the night, possibly hurt your butt, tear your hammock, hurt yourself, you know, all sorts of things. So marlin spike hitch here, and I just use titanium toggles, so I know I always have something with me, and they're pretty lightweight. They're, I don't know, probably like 2 or 3 grams each. And then it's the same story on the other side. Same story on the other side. And then the bag that the hammock comes in is a double-ended stuff sack, and there are cinches on both sides to close it. The red, for me, I've decided that the red is my head end. Obviously it's reversed because you saw me reverse the hammock, but this is the head side of the hammock that has the War Bonnet logo on it. And so I just know that's where the head is going to go, and I can start that way. It doesn't really matter, but that's how I choose to do it. And then I want to show you one other thing. Oops. So I have a couple other rigs here for gear. So these are Dutch clips. They are these titanium clips that you can get from Dutchware as well, and they're for hooking the Kevlar straps, or whatever type of strap you choose to use. You just put it on there and it'll keep them hooked together. It might prolong the life of your strap versus like hooking it through itself, like I have up here. It might prolong the life of your strap, maybe. And then I've got whoopee slings as well. So these are Amsteel cords that are spliced together, and they use what's called a Dutch hook, or a whoopee hook. And this goes on to the fixed loop end of your hammock. So right here where we have the marlin spike hitch, instead what you do is you hook it straight on to this, and the whoopee sling then, the longer end of it essentially just fixes to your strap at some point. I usually just do like a lark's head knot to just tie it on there, and that makes it easy enough. Whoopee slings are great because, I should have mentioned, they're great because you can adjust the length of them. So they're spliced together. It's like a Chinese finger trap. So you can see right here, it goes sort of into itself, and just by sliding it through, you can make it longer or shorter, and then you just sort of tighten it down by squeezing your finger along the splice. As Shug calls it, milking the berry. So these are great for when you want to vary the length if you think you're going to have some really big trees. These trees here are not super big around, and I bought specifically like the longest Kevlar straps I could get so that I have freedom to make really long marlin spike hitches. And what's cool is you can also just get the double loop straps, use a whoopee sling, and you can vary it however you want. It doesn't really matter. So I wanted to try both options, and I like the hitch, but the whoopee slings can be a bit faster, so it's really just up to you how you want to do it. All right, so let's talk about, actually one more thing. Let's talk about the actual way to rig these ropes. So you'll see this is a little messed up because of the branch on the tree. But over here, I have the loop on this side over here. You follow it down the hammock, back up to this side, and we have the loop over here. This really should be rotated like this. And what you can see here is this is sliding freely. So there's not a whole lot of tension being put on the stitching for the webbing, which is a good thing. You don't want to be straining the webbing. So this is essentially just keeping this in place. It's not being used for tension. There's a little bit of tension, but the other interesting thing to note is that you want the loops on the same side, because what'll happen is you'll get a crossover. So if this started over here and then came on the other side over there, you would get this slant to it, and it makes the hammock look weird and it doesn't quite lay right. So you want the loops on the same side of the tree. And then again, you don't want to put a lot of tension on the webbing with that loop. It's just there to sort of keep it fixed around the tree. Yeah, and then before we talk about the hammock, one other thing about rigging. So ultimately, you can see the ridgeline here. It's not super tight. It's a little loose. Now when I sit in it, it will get tighter. But this is a bit of a, it's not the best hang. What you typically want, I think, is something like a 23 or 25 degree angle. And a good way to do it is generally between your thumb and your index finger. So this is a little steeper than that. And the issue is that the further apart your trees are, the longer your straps have to be. And the hammock, in order to get that angle, you essentially have to raise the straps up higher on the tree so that you can get the proper angle. And so, did I say steep? I think I meant shallow. No, that is steep. But anyway, you have to get that angle right so that your ridgeline is the right sort of tension. And my hammock has an integrated ridgeline, so this is going to vary based on hammock to hammock. But it affects how tight the hammock actually is when you get in it, and how tight the fabric is like underneath you. So you need to get that angle right, otherwise your hammock's going to be way too firm. And then if you have the angle way too steep, the ridgeline's going to be super loose and the fabric's going to be really loose, and your back is going to bend too much and it's not going to be comfortable either. So that being said, hopefully that makes sense. You want to get, I forget, I apologize, it's like a 23, 25 or 30 degree angle, something like that. This is definitely too steep. It's close, but I'm trying to get my finger flat. It's a little off, but it's not too bad. So again, you have to raise your straps. If your trees are far apart, you got to lower your straps and cinch them way up, and you might find that the hammock ends up, the ends are like super close to the trees, or they're really far from the trees, but you want to get that angle. This is the Warbonnet Blackbird XLC hammock. I've got the dual layer fabric. I did that so mosquitoes can't bite through it. It's also better for bigger, heavier people. I did it more for mosquito protection, biting up my back. This is sil nylon. I forgot. I think there's like an extra durable version. I didn't get the extra durable, I think. I just got the dual layer. But the Blackbird XLC, great hammock, comes with the bug net. You can get it in a couple different options for color, amount of fabric you get on it, the thickness of the fabric. And yeah, so they do have some options. Not the cheapest hammock out there, but you do get the integrated bug net. And they have a couple other options, like a zip-in actual sil nylon cover that's better for the winter to keep heat trapped in and stuff like that. You can unzip it very easily. And I'll go over a couple more features, but great hammock. So it comes with these bungees. You can adjust the length of it. You can stake it out from quite far away if you really need to. They go to these clips. You can just unclip it from that. And what's cool is this keeps it pulled away from your face. It keeps the mesh away from your face when you're sleeping, which can be kind of an issue on some other hammocks from what I've read. Now, this is my first hammock, I should mention, so I haven't had that issue. But on this other side here, we also have it staked out, and that's the reason why it's called the Blackbird, is because sort of when it's staked out, it kind of looks like an SR-71 Blackbird, the stealth plane. So it's got these wings. That one keeps the bug net away from your face. This one is a shelf that you can put a bunch of stuff in. So you just throw your headlamp and your socks and you know, your phone or earbuds or whatever you're going to use depending on what you're doing, a book. I usually put my hat, headlamp, you know, all sorts of random stuff. I'll even put my clothes in there. Usually when I take my shirt off, take my pants off, sometimes I'll just kind of ball them up. It's super windy out here right now. I'll just ball them up and throw them in here, and it does sag down a bit, but you know, you can stake it out pretty tight. Again, you have those really configurable bungees to use. So this is really, really, really handy. So you don't necessarily need a ridgeline organizer, something to hang from your ridgeline, but I might still buy one just for a couple other little things, like a light to hang while I'm in there if I'm trying to read a book or whatever. Okay, so I've tied this back. You get these really nice, just little silk ties or whatever they are. Keeps the bug net out of your face. Again, like I said before, you can unzip the whole thing. You have the 2 separate zippers to get in from the side. So I replaced, or I put these, I think there weren't any pulls on the inside here. I added these pulls. I got them from REI, I think. They're like Tinder cord. They actually have like flammable cord on the inside of them in case you're really in need of like a fire starter. Some might say that's a bad choice because like I don't want my hammock to start on fire, but this fabric itself is not exactly fire retardant on its own, so I'm not too concerned about that, honestly. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. So just popping in, sitting in the hammock here. All right, I might have screwed that up based on my settings. So it seems I got the hang pretty decent. The ridgeline is not super tight, not super loose, which is good. And then one nice thing too is based on how you bunch up the fabric kind of under your butt when you're sitting in this hammock, kind of like a chair, the bug net actually kind of acts like a little bit of a backrest or a neck rest, depending on how you lay in it. I don't know if it's intended to be a feature, but it's actually really nice. So that's one really cool side effect of the design of this hammock. And then if we lay, quilts coming out. So if we lay in this, we got a shimmy diagonal. So now my head is on the left side and my feet are on the right. Let's see if you can see this. There's some extra material down here on this end at the foot box. And that foot box is there specifically to give you more room so your feet aren't like being pushed by the fabric, which is really nice. So you get all that extra room in there. And yeah, it actually looks, you probably can't see it, but the ridgeline here is not super tight, but it's not super loose. You don't want guitar string like dong, dong. You really don't want it that tight, but you also don't want it flopping all over the place. This is a nice deep wobble. This is a pretty decent hang actually. So anyway, I'm laying diagonally and I've got my feet in the foot box, and this isn't too bad. Now you may need to kind of grab the ends of the hammock here. I just kind of grab it and pull to shimmy yourself around based on where your head is in the hammock. So based on where I'm laying, I've got a little bit more room. I could probably slide a little bit further up, and that would require me to adjust the straps a little bit, which is fine. Totally fine. But this isn't too bad. This is a nice little hang. So then I'll show you the quilts. So this is the Hammock Gear Econ Burrow. I got it in the Ion Blue. I think it's Ion Blue. And then it's a 30-degree top quilt. Did I call it an underquilt? It's a top quilt. Made in the USA. It's a great product. It's got real down in it. I think it's 800 fill down. So if you get the premium burrow, you can get 850 fill down, or if you really choose 950 fill power down, which basically means that it like retains more warmth per ounce of the material. So the higher the fill power, the warmer it is by weight, by ounce of the material. So the Econ Burrow is fine. You'll save a couple ounces here or there. If you're going for like a 0-degree bag or even lower and you overstuff it or whatever, getting like say for a winter bag, you could save 6-7 ounces by going with 950 fill power over 800 fill power. And it'll also be denser because there's less of that material as well. So a really good option for winter camping. It gets expensive if you want to go the premium option, but they do sales on their Econ ones pretty often. You can get them custom. You can buy some ready-made ones. And then there are two options for the toe box. You can get them with a zipper, so you can completely open them like a blanket if you want, with this little cinch end, or you can have them sewn shut. It's up to you. I've really enjoyed this as a 30-degree top quilt. I can say I've had it down into about 33 to 35 degrees inside a tent and roughly 40 degrees inside the hammock with the Yeti 20-degree underquilt in the hammock. And I've had a good pad for tent sleeping as well, the Thermarest NeoAir X-Therm. Pretty high R value, so it's retaining my body heat pretty well from the ground. But with this as a top quilt, I've used it in the tent. I prefer this over a bigger sleeping bag. It works really well. It kept me warm. I normally run a little bit warm, but it's been great and for a pretty good price. It's a lot lighter than, wow, this wind. You can see the dual layer of the hammock right there. As I was saying, top quilts kept me quite warm. I've enjoyed it. It's a great price. It's a lot lighter and denser than a sleeping bag. By denser, I don't mean denser. It's smaller volume, so it's a lot easier to pack down. Yeah, it's a great value. It has kept me warm. I'd buy another in a heartbeat. I'm probably gonna get one for the winter. And then here we have the Warbonnet Yeti 20-degree 3-season underquilt. Now this is not a full-length underquilt. This is like a 2/3 or a 3/4. So it cuts off right around your knees, like your kneecaps. So it's not the best for winter sleeping, and shoulder season is like sort of in between. If you have warm socks and you have a decent top quilt with a nice fluffy foot box, you're generally fine. You can also use what I've got here, a piece of Reflectix. So this is just some cheap insulation that you can get at Home Depot or any home improvement store. It's like 10 bucks for a giant roll of this stuff. So this is just some insulation that you can put underneath your feet in the hammock. I mean, it helps. It really does help. You can also use it as a sit pad. You can put your shoes on it or whatever in the middle of the night. It works really well, and it's super cheap. You can also make as Shug calls them, a koozie, a little like insulator for your mug or your pots, anything like that. All right, back to the underquilt. Underquilt, 20-degree Yeti there, and again, not a full length, but quite fluffy, real down. I don't remember what the fill power is on this. It's 800 or 850, I believe, and it just uses these bungees that run up to the edge of the gathered ends of your hammock, and you just kind of hook it on there. So it's compatible with a lot of different types of hammocks. You don't have to have a Warbonnet hammock to use this underquilt, but it works really well on the Blackbird XLC. Again, it cuts off at your knees, but I find it totally fine, and you can adjust it and raise it or lower it. It just kind of slides on the bungee here. And once you're in the actual hammock, you can just kind of open the zippers on either side and slide it until it's basically right above your shoulders down to your kneecaps. And I find it's actually quite nice in the shoulder seasons to absolutely just leave it on when you're sitting in the hammock. It's a nice butt warmer, and you can feel it immediately when you sit in that hammock. You can feel the warmth on your butt. It's quite nice. So the Yeti is not super cheap, but it's a good it's a great product. Packs down really small, and I've enjoyed it. For winter camping, I haven't done any winter hammocking yet, but I do think I'm going to get a full-length underquilt, possibly the Wookiee that Warbonnet makes for this hammock specifically. It might work on one of their other hammocks as well, but it is fitted for the Blackbird XLC. It's sewn and fabricated just for that, so it attaches and it's a full length, and that would be a lot nicer just for keeping your butt warm, keeping your knees warm, and your feet warm. So forgot to mention one thing. So this is the Argon pillow from Hammock Gear. It's a down pillow. You can get an XL version if you want. This is the normal version, and it's just got this bungee cord cinch that you can use, and I find it's quite long. But you just toss it in your hammock and clip it up right inside the top there. I can't quite get to it, but there's a little area that you can, right here, on the AM steel for the ridge line. You can just clip it to that, and then it hangs down, and you can adjust it however you want. And it's more of a neck pillow. It's not like super padded, but it's warm. It'll keep your neck warm, and it does prop your head up a little bit. So it's a really nice thing to have. You can use a blow-up inflatable pillow as well. I've used that. I do still use that on occasion. And it's so small that I can bring both of those with me, and it's like not even bringing them. So that's really the setup here. I wanted to show you the tarp, but I guess I'll be doing my tarps in a separate video because I don't have the stakes to show you them right now. One other thing is, it actually does matter which side you get in on this hammock. There is a head end only on one side because the shelf is on the other side. So shelf is over there, head is on the left. You can get them reversed if you want the head on the right. You'll lay this way. I lay this way, yep, with the head here, feet there. So I lay this way, but you can have it so that you can lay with your feet pointing to the left and you enter on the right if you would like. You just have to request it in the order. Not a huge deal. Sometimes I kind of wish that I could do it, and based on where the trees are that I'm trying to camp, like I want to face a particular way, so I have to place my hammock differently. It's fine. It's honestly fine. But I'm really satisfied with the Blackbird XLC. The double fabric has been nice. It hasn't been too tight. The shelf is super handy. You need it because you have almost no organization in a hammock to put all the stuff that you would have all over the place on your tent. I usually just put my shoes and on the ground below me, but it's a sweet setup. It's not cheap. The Dutchware is a lifesaver in some cases. You didn't get to see a lot of it, but there's some really cool Dutchware stuff on the tarps that I'll be showing in the next video. I'm close to the end of my lunch break, so I gotta run anyway, but hopefully this has been helpful. The Blackbird XLC, great hammock. Again, not super cheap, but worth every penny in my opinion. Very comfortable, great thoughtful features, made by people who obviously use them. The Yeti Underquilt, very warm, very compact, great for the money. Econ Burrow, love it, 30 degree. Would buy another one today if I needed one. Wouldn't hesitate to recommend to anybody who is in the market for a top quilt. And yeah, that's been it. If you have any questions, at all about any of this gear, how I rigged it, why I rigged it that way, if you want to tell me I'm wrong or that I did something wrong, please do. I'm always open to growing and learning, and I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong because it means that I get to be right if I get corrected. So we all want to be right? But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Again, please let me know any thoughts or comments that you have. I really appreciate any feedback that you have. Thank you very much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it. Subscribe for more gear reviews, backpacking videos, canoe trips, and I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks. I should mention one more thing. When I get home, I take these out of these sacks and I put them into larger, they're like corn, I don't know, corn sacks, or I forgot what they're called. Those little, you put your legs in them and you run across the finish line, you race your friends in them. I forgot what they're called. They're just these larger bags that Hammock Gear sells so that you can keep the down uncompressed when you're at home. If you keep it compressed over time, it'll actually kind of ruin the down. So you want to keep them uncompressed, but for travel, obviously you keep them in here, and you know, they squish down quite small, but you want to uncompress them when you get home.